Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's we'll be reviewing the BMW X3 M50. Before we get into this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the BMW Pleasant Grove for giving me some time with this X3. I'll include a link to their website in the description down below. If you have any questions, need any help, just ask for Brendan. Also include a link to my car buying guide. Let's get into it. Under the hood, we have a turbo 3-liter inline-6 that goes through an 8-speed. Fuel economy is 25 around town and then 30 on the highway, with power outputs being 393 horsepower and then 428 pound-feet of torque. Before we move forward with this review, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So taking a look at the hood, you guys can see the new X3 is actually very boxy. It's an interesting design. And then look at the new headlights as well. Very interesting what BMW is doing with those on all their cars. Got the little M logo there. The grille's actually mostly closed off, interestingly enough. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that new front end. It's interesting. Our tire wheel setup is 255 by 40 by 21 on the front, and then 285 by 35 by 21 in the rear. And you can see here with the wheels, you got the silver with the blacked out trim there. And then also the blue brake caliper kind of matches the exterior paint of this a little bit. But yeah, no fender flares or anything like that. But we do have some painted bodywork there, blacked out mirror cap as well. And here's the side profile, pretty cool looking, I think. Now this leads us to the key fob where we have our remote start function is built in with the lock function. We've got our unlock opening for the rear hatch, which reveals quite a bit of cargo space. Again, this is not BMW's smallest SUV, but it's one of their smaller units, right? The X5 and the X7 are the bigger ones. See here with the little 12 volt there, cargo cover built in from the factory as well. And then when you're all done, just press that and that will lower the hatch right back down. Taillight design is really cool. Look at that. It kind of looks like swords, or almost. Very interesting. M50 there at the bottom, and there's the rest of the rear. Popping inside, the door panel has this cloth trim here at the top. You can see the soft touch down below. Two-tone interior is pretty cool looking. See that theme continues onto the seats as well. And popping in. Again, not massive space, but smaller SUV. Got a little storage pocket there. Got vents here in the rear, as well as some USBs there at the bottom. And then headroom back here is actually really good. Now this leads us up front, where again we've got the cloth trim here, and then you can see the soft touch down below. All of our window controls, mirrors power fold in. And this is interesting for the memory seats, the lock and unlock and all that. Blind spot monitoring with the mirrors. Here are the seats up front. Notice we do have a bunch of adjustments there, and then here's kind of like the bottom portion. Nice trim on the pedals, and you can see that cloth trim is also on the dash as well. Taking a look at the steering wheel, you got the red marker there at the top. You got the M colors there on the center. Cool paddle shifters here on the back, on top of that. Got our cruise controls, another little M logo there at the bottom, and this is nice. The trim on the other side of the steering wheel. Normal stocks here on the rear as well. Now full digital gauge cluster, and just like other modern BMWs, when you change the drive mode, it will change what the cluster looks like display-wise, which kind of a cool little party trick there, but it gives you all the basic information you need to see, like how much fuel range you have, for example. We've got a 360 camera system with this, and there is this plastic covering that kind of creates quite a bit of glare with the screen. Obviously you take that off when you buy the car. But outside of the camera system, just BMW's newer infotainment system. So it's easy to use, it's quick to respond, everything's nicely labeled, and yes, the climate controls are built into the screen. But notice the vents down below, you open and close those with little sliders. This is very cool looking for a little charging area, and then you got some cup holders there too. Some physical controls here for like the infotainment system, volume control, your drive mode select as well. And then you can see with the transmission select and your auto hold. Also, I do like this trim. BMW is doing a good job with their new interiors. Good storage inside. Nice trim there on the top. Do have a normal glove box. And then rear view mirror, and then we do have a big panoramic center Man, they like this new cloth trim they're doing everywhere. Interesting. So here's what I want to sticker for this M50. See, lots of equipment added to it. Total MSRP $76,850. And see how it performs. Well, let us set off in the X3 M50. Visibility, by the way, not too bad. Through that the rear is a little bit tighter, but kind of typical of these sportier SUVs. Man, why are they taking up parking spaces with dumpsters? Kind of a weird thing to do. But let's see how this thing rocks and rolls. I will say I am continually impressed with BMW's interiors and how they drive. I am not so impressed with some of their modern style choices. This isn't like horrible looking by any means, but yeah, it's kind of like you look at the front end and you're like, what are those? What's happening here? But you know, to each their own. So, yeah, sharp driving. It's still, I would say it's still luxury. You don't get quite as much insulation as what you're going to get in the bigger BMWs. Not quite as comfortable with the ride as what you're going to get with the bigger BMWs either. But it's still a pleasant experience nonetheless. And yeah, the ride is, it's better than you think it would be, all things considered. Yeah, like going over the bumps, it handles it well. You definitely stay in control of the car. That's one thing that is impressive about BMWs is you always feel like you're in control of the car. Don't necessarily get that in every single vehicle. And the torque is great. I mean, for daily driving, you just barely in the throttle. And this is one of the things I love about inline sixes is they've got really good low end torque, but they're also really smooth. And so even if you do go higher into the RPMs, it's not harsh at all like you get out of a V6. Inline sixes are similarly smooth to V8s, I would say. Turbo inline sixes, at least. That's why it always surprises me that more automakers don't use inline six over V6. Part of it, I'm sure, is cost. It's always about the money. It's always about the money. Let's pop it into the... Okay, let's pop it in sport mode here. I will say, I'm not a huge fan of BMW's new drive mode select, where you've got to press a button on the screen. Oh, that was a little bit bumpier. Just tell the suspension stiff in the sport mode. Yeah, kind of. I'm not a huge fan of this all digital stuff that automakers are going for. That is one thing about unibody. You don't have as much articulation, so when you do go through bigger dips like that, you definitely feel it more. Gosh, I love the torque this thing provides. Oof, yeah, it's got good torque. It doesn't necessarily feel any quicker. Just do, well, sorry, that's personal. Whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It's either way you look at it, it feels impressive with the power delivery. Either way that you look at it. So overall, the X3 M50, I think this is a really well balanced vehicle. It's got good power, it's comfortable, it's got a nice interior. There is a lot to love about this. I'm trying to think if there's any downsides. It's expensive, that's it. You gotta pay to play, folks. So let me know what you guys think about the X3 M50, but overall it's a solid performance SUV. It also does the luxury car stuff, and man, I just wish that BMW would calm down on their styling, because everything about this car is great. The drive, the interior, the engine, all of it's fantastic. It just, looking at it from certain angles, it's like, ooh, ooh, ooh. What were you thinking, Mr. or Mrs. Design Person? That's all.